we think when something is hard that God isn't in it? Today we're going to be talking about God's will and how to find it even if it seems hard.
We need to change our mindset.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done.
And our expectations.
And our expectations.
Yeah.
Yes,
And our
our
comfort level.
expectations. Uh-huh.
Because we really like comfort and,
Of course. And nobody wants
that.
to go through a trial or some difficult thing.
So let me throw this out here too, because I just thought of this. Do you think that was part of what Scripture means when it said you count the cost? Do you think we accurately count the cost of following Christ?
No.
Mm-mm.
Why is that?
Well, I think we want to have an easy life. And sometimes you may hear not correct teaching that says, you follow me, all good things will happen, or you sow into the church, you're going to get blessed and get a new Cadillac, or all this sort of maybe faulty teaching
Yeah.
that when you follow God, it's going to be easy and it won't hurt.
Right.
And I think we have to challenge our mindset on that.
And make sure it's a biblical mindset.
Mm-hmm. Biblical mindset.
A lot of the cultural Christianity that we see today does not have a foundation in the Bible. Can I say that on this podcast? Okay.
You should.
Sorry.
We have to talk
But-
about it.
Right.
Some of the things, that's why I think it's so important to know Scripture. Now, I'll say this. I told my life group girls this past week. I've been a believer for coming up on 42 years. I ought to know the Bible inside and out. I don't. I don't know everything about the Bible. But I will say I'm consistently pursuing God through His Word and trying to learn as much as I can. Now, I don't think you'll ever know everything about the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I think its depths are endless.
It's beyond us.
Right. And I think that's why you can read a verse 100 million times and get something different every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's so important for the foundational truths and the overarching theme of the Bible is because when teaching comes that is not of the Bible, you can identify it. Ruth Bell Graham said she had a dinner with one of the officials from Scotland Yard who was a part of the counterfeit division. And she said to him, "Man, you must study all the counterfeits in all the world." And he said, "Oh, no, ma'am." He said, "I study the real thing so that when a counterfeit comes across my desk, I instantly know it." That's what we need to be about.
Yeah.
Constantly studying the real thing so that when a counterfeit comes along, we can identify it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think oftentimes too with Scripture we like to pick and choose the passages that make us feel good. The
poster passages is what I
coffee
call them.
cup.
Yes.
Yeah, coffee cups and posters, right?
That God says, "I'm going to do a new thing. I'm
Right.
making all things new. You're a new creation.
Yes.
I give you a new name." Oh, all that sounds great because that old stuff was pretty crappy. So
Yeah.
the new stuff's going to be awesome and joy-filled and full of hope. And yes, it will be awesome and joy-filled and full of hope and full of Jesus. And the Bible also says, in this life we will have troubles.
It's interesting you use that verse. That verse came to me right after I had gotten fired. The only time I've ever been fired in my life, which is hard for a people pleaser to get fired.
Yes, it is.
And I had felt so rejected and so low, and I went to a women's conference at a church, and that verse was spoken. And I was in the middle of a hard thing. I had been rejected from this job. I had no idea what was coming next. I was pregnant, and my feet were out from under me. And that verse spoke to me. And that's interesting that you said that, because it's like in the middle of a hard time, you hear that and it gives you hope, but you'll see God actually bring it into fruition if you hold on and trust Him. So I'm glad you said that verse, because that was a hard thing that I went through, and that verse gave me hope.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen without going through the hard thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't get to see God show up in hard things without going through a hard thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like seeing a before and after picture.
Yeah.
You see the before picture, you see the after picture, but you don't see the road in between with its dips and hills and valleys and all that stuff. The road in between is actually what made it possible for the before and after.
The work.
But you don't see that. And so what I would say is the road to the after is paved with a lot of things that it may not even be paved. It may just be rutted and crazy and twisting ankles and all that jazz before you get to that point. Because don't look at someone's life and convince yourself that it's been an easy journey for them, because everybody has their own definition of hard. For hard, for you may not be hard for someone else, but God knows exactly what He needs to shape and mold us into the person that He wants us to become.
Yeah.
And to make us more like His Son. And I think about that because that it always tickles me when I see diet ads. They crack me up because the before picture, this frumpy person who doesn't have on any makeup and their hair's not fixed. And then
And they're not
after all
smiling.
of a
And the way
sudden-
they're standing is accentuating everything.
Yes, and after the after photo, they have on the brightest lipstick you can imagine. Their hair's fixed. They have
They're
on a
posed.
trendy outfit, and they're posed, right?
And they're smiling.
But if you've ever been on a weight loss journey, and I've been on plenty of them, I'm always on one. What happens in between? Those days you want to quit.
Yeah.
Those days you're discouraged. Those days that you eat your weight in donuts or cinnamon rolls or whatever.
Cinnamon rolls.
But you get back up. Sorry, squirrel. But you get back up and you start doing the hard work again. And that's how you stay on track and make it between the before and after. And I just think that's a good way to think of it. Like you can't compare your before to somebody's after.